Uffda! Uffda Tech Videos present MySQL Syntax. So today, your hosts, Bryan Coates, and myself, Amber Nupson Coates, are here to tell you all about the basic MySQL syntax. And after this lesson, you will be able to learn, just using basic syntax, enough information to run and execute a query where you can actually sufficiently call yourself a data scientist.
Pretty neat, huh?
So let's get started and what keywords are involved in running a basic SQL query. So you will need the keyword select, from, where, and order by clauses. And every single MySQL statement, you will need the select and from statement. That is mandatory. They must be included in every query execution. But every other case statement, clause, a where, or order by, etc., any other types of clauses, they are all optional. You don't actually need them in order to run your query. They just help you in order to be able to refine your results and get more detailed information if you so choose to. They're just options. And so if you just barely know anything and you just want to gather information, really the select and from clause will get you started at least. So what is exactly the select clause? Well, it's just like I said, it's a no-brainer. It selects what you want it to select. Ta-da! So what we want to select is a column name. So you can have one column name or you can have multiple column names. So if you want more than one column name though, you have to separate that information with a comma. See this comma here? So you can have a column name, comma, another column name, comma, another column name, etc., until as many column names as you want. The from clause selects information from a specific table. So you're gathering information from this table and you're running it against those column names. All right, and then the where and the order by clauses again are optional. The where clause allows you to select a subset of the data based on a certain condition. And the order by clause basically sorts the information by ascending or descending order. So in order to run your query and get more refined information, you can use Boolean operators. The equal than sign, the not equal than sign, the greater than sign, the less than sign, the greater than or equal to sign, or the less than or equal than sign. If you can't remember what these are, we dumbed it down for you and kind of put these in just your abbreviated form, the initials, so you can kind of remember what those things mean. And then we have these more advanced operators, which we'll get into in another lesson, but we'll just briefly cover them now. This between and inclusive range, the like, it does a Boolean operation to search for a pattern, and the in operator specifies a multiple value for a column.
Yeah, baby, yeah.
Uffda, yeah, sure you betcha, don't you know? From the Minnesota girl, Amber Nicole. Uffda, everyone, and yay!
So when we want to execute a query, we need to run data. So where do we get that data? Well, MySQL is awesome in that it lets you import data from other programs. And most of the time, people like to use Excel to store their tables and their subsets of information. So here's how to import your Excel file into the MySQL database. So first, you create that Excel table. Then when you get into the MySQL server, we're going to go to this folder here, databases. And if you haven't created a folder underneath databases yet, this is, you would right click on database. Then you would select your column names, your ID, your customer names, your first name, etc. All the names that you want, just right click, create your folders. And then once you're done, finish. So once you've done that, you can scroll down to the folder that you want. All right, so let's say you already did that. All right, you go to databases, you scroll down to the folder that you want because you've already created it. You're gonna go to Tools, right click here, select this arrow, you can drop down and select import data. So we're going to want to import data from Excel, right? So it's going to prompt and bring up a pop-up screen, and you're going to follow the prompts to click next, 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 until it brings you to a screen that says data source on that. Next to the data source button is a drop-down button. From there, you're going to want to scroll through until you can actually find the Excel file that you want, choose it, and then hit next, 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 finish, and then you'll be done importing. So in order to see that that information was actually imported, you will go to this file here, right click, do a refresh, so all this information will repopulate, and then it should show your Excel tables underneath.
Three database technicians walked into a NoSQL restaurant, but they had to leave a little while later because they couldn't find a table.
One of the things when you are running queries, they can get long and they can get complicated. And if you want somebody to check your work, sometimes it's very confusing to say, on this line, this, and this, and this. Sometimes it's just easier to run it by numbers. So if you want to line your query line by numbers, here's how you would format that. So whenever you are writing a new query, you select this new query button. That will open up a white screen, a new window pane. This right here is where your query is going to be run. And so we want on this pane to have numbers, so that every time we write a new query line, it will have a number right next to it. So we can have a ready reference to say, on line 5, check this out. Is this okay? Did I do this right? And somebody can double check your work, right? So in order to do that, we're going to go to the options on your toolbar. You're going to select, see, here's your options. You're going to select the text editor right here. Then you're going to do a drop down, which will open up more options to choose. You're going to want to choose Transact SQL. From there, choose the drop down General. This will open up this term here, and you're going to select General and then line numbers. See that? That will put the numbers on your screen.
Select clause.
So let's get started with what the select clause is all about. If you want to select all the columns from a table, then use the select and the star. So what that does, the star, it acts as a wildcard to select all the column names in your database without you having to manually type each one out. So you're saying, please select all the columns from the table main contact for me, and boom, 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 it will populate all those column names without you having to even type a word. So cool. But let's say you want to drill it down and be a little bit more specific, right? That's when you would write this next statement. You would do select, and you would do the specific column name that you want. Again, you would separate it by another comma and then column name. So let's just say you only want the first name and the last name, and you're only going to sort by these two columns, and that's all you want. Or you could say first name, last name, birthday, etc. So you can manually type in your column names, and then that will run against your database main contact. Or now you're really getting into the nitty gritty. Let's say you have a table that has over 5,000 rows, and you have executed your query and it ran a whole bunch of results, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is too much. I only want a specific amount of information. Well, how do you refine that result? You use this select distinct. The select distinct will distinctly find information in this column. So it will find those values across those specified columns, right? So here's an example. Select distinct last name. Select distinct first name from main contact. For example, select distinct last name Smith, etc., etc., etc. All right? So the key word here is distinct, distinct, distinct. It will find you distinct information for you. One thing that's pretty cool with MySQL, it is not case sensitive. So it doesn't really matter if it's uppercase, lowercase, how you write it. Whereas other databases may or may not be case sensitive, MySQL is not, so you don't have to worry about that. And remember the columns. Otherwise, it will join your information together, and you don't want that because it will make your query really crazy. And you definitely do not want that. All right.
From.
In fact, you're probably so nice that you have learned from your parents that you take a random apple pie, you drop it off at your neighbor's house. Because that's just what you do.
Where?
The where clause selects a subset of data. So it's not necessary all the time. But if you want to select a specific row from a table, then this is where the where clause will come in handy, right? So the select and from clause must always come first. So whenever you're writing your class, remember, select must come and the from must come first before you write anything else. So this where comes after, because if you try to put this where in between, it's not going to execute your query. It's going to give you an error and you're going to be like, what happened? I don't know what happened. Or if you put it above the select, it's not going to understand it. So you need to be able to speak computer. In order to speak computer, just put it where it belongs. Put it after the select and from statement, okay? Select and from, and then your where clause. All right, so the where syntax is written where the column and then the operator will equal the value, okay? So for example, we want to find the column name by first name, so we're going to sort by first name, where the operator, that's the equal sign, is equal to the value, and the value here is the name John. All right, so one thing to note when we are writing our queries, whenever we have a varchar or a characters string right here, for instance, the letters that make the word John, the varchar needs to be in these single quotations so that the computer understands that these are varchars. If this was an integer, like any number, you don't need those quotes. That's how the computer distinguishes between characters and numbers. So if you want characters, put a quotation mark around that value so it will return characters, okay?
Order by clause.
All right, let's get into the last thing today, and you will be done, and you will actually be able to say, yes, I did it, I ran it, I'm awesome. Woo! Woo! All right, let's get into it. The order by clause. The order by clause statement specifies the column that you want to be in ascending or descending order. And you can specify more than one column, but you have to do that by adding columns between the column names. The ascending order here, whenever you're writing a statement, it automatically defaults to ascending order. That's what the system already is programmed to do. It will automatically sort for you in ascending order. But if you want to sort in descending order, all you have to do is write order by, write your column names, right after it type the words, the characters DESC.
Uffda, y'all.